Hello, welcome to another episode of The Walking Classroom. My name is Amelia, and I'm joined by Isabel and our teacher, Miss Fung. Only one ear should be covered with an earbud or headphone while you walk, so you still know what's going on around you. Walk quickly and keep up with your group, so you can enjoy the full benefits of a good workout.
Our walk today is going to be a real breath of fresh air. Did you know that taking big gulps of air helps fill our lungs with oxygen, which then flows into our bloodstream and makes our whole body function better? You might think that taking in oxygen only has to do with breathing, but it also keeps our other organs running smoothly. So when your lungs fill up, that's just the first step in getting your heart pumping and moving all that oxygen around to the other parts of the body, like your brain.
And speaking of fresh air and fresh thinking, this week, Isabel and I spent a lot of time learning about a woman who's made it her business to warn us about the damage we're doing by messing with our atmosphere. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about renowned climate scientist Dr. Inez Fung.
That's right, the one and only Inez Fung, one of the top scientists in her field and a member of a United Nations-sponsored team of scientists who won the Nobel Prize for their efforts to help the entire world understand what's happening to our planet. Her research is super duper important because it's helping us figure out why all of a sudden the weather is changing so dramatically and parts of the earth are heating up at an alarming rate. The news is filled with stories of hurricanes, floods, droughts, and icebergs melting all over the place.
I certainly want to know what's up with all of the shifts from hot to cold to windy to stormy and back again. Good thing we have Dr. Fung around to investigate, along with the other people she works with at the University of California at Berkeley. That's where she's head of the Center for Atmospheric Studies. Fancy schmancy.
And it doesn't stop there. She's become so well respected, she gets to work with other big-time scientists in different countries too. And she even got named to a special committee that advises the president about our climate and environment.
But it seems like her research is revealing some pretty scary ways that people like us might be making some massive climate problems even worse. Reading about it made me kind of nervous, even though people as smart as Dr. Fung are helping us figure out some solutions.
It can be frightening to think about, but it's definitely important for us to understand what's going on up there in the atmosphere. Our atmosphere contains all of the air and gases that we need to survive. And every single day, people living across the globe are affected by their climate and the type of weather that they'll need to contend with when they head out the door. What's going on in the sky will determine if your day is full of heat or cold, strong winds or calm breezes, and storms or sunshine.
Wow! If humans are doing something to affect our atmosphere, that ends up making Earth hotter and causes our normal weather patterns to go crazy. That could be seriously bad news for a whole lot of us. It seems like we really need to start paying attention to what we're doing to our home.
I have to admit, I didn't get that at first. After all, how could little old me possibly contribute to what's going on up in the sky, way beyond the clouds? And why is Dr. Fung so worried about the Earth getting warmer? Doesn't warmer weather mean more days to spend on the beach and less time mucking through snow and sleet?
Who wouldn't love that? But then we started reading about all the changes that can happen when the Earth heats up even just a teensy tiny bit more than usual. I love sunshine, but I don't want too much warm weather to mess up food production for farmers.
Or to make pollution worse. Or melt so much of the polar ice caps that the ocean rises up and places along the coastline, like New York City, Miami, or San Francisco, are soon underwater.
Eek! All of that stuff kind of sounds like it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Even worse, it's already happening. Remember, part of Inez Fung's mission is to educate others about the effects of climate change that she can already see taking place. People have to understand that all of this scary stuff is actually real, and it's going on for a reason.
And that reason is, well, us. People haven't always been treating the planet in the best way. And one of the ways we've been careless about it is by allowing factories and cars to use a ton of something we call fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels are things like oil, which we turn into gasoline, We've become so dependent on oil to power machines that make our lives easier that we've forgotten about the consequences.
That's what Dr. Fung is investigating. She tracks what's going on with our long-term climate patterns as well as our daily weather to see what kind of effect we're having on planet Earth, our precious home. She sees how things like fossil fuels might be contributing to some serious issues.
Yeah, she's already shown that using a lot of fossil fuels is causing too much of a buildup of carbon dioxide. Too much carbon dioxide in the air makes the Earth much hotter than it should be. Without humans and their machines releasing all that junky carbon dioxide up into the air, the Earth would still naturally get a little warmer, but that would happen super slowly.
Instead, the temperature is rising more and more quickly every year. Some people call this climate change. Some call it global warming. Either way, it's scary stuff.
At least we have people like Dr. Fung to give us some evidence of what's happening so we can change our behavior.
Hopefully.
She's able to track our climate and then collaborate with others to spread the message about the dangers of global warming. That's why she won the Nobel Prize along with a group of other scientists who are dedicated to working together and speaking out about climate change.
Sound like they're building strength in numbers and like they have a lot of important research to share.
I think you're right. Some of their most innovative work has been done using computer models. And that's how Dr. Fung uses the small changes she sees in the daily weather now to help predict even bigger changes to our long-term climate of the future. This means that computer programs help her figure out what the Earth will look like and what will happen to our environment if the temperature keeps going up.
I think the main thing she wants us to understand is that what's going on in the land part of the Earth affects the air and atmosphere above us. There's a strong connection between the two.
That reminds me of what we learned about trees helping produce oxygen.
That's right. We learned about how trees have the important job of taking in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and using it to help them grow. Carbon dioxide is essentially carbon plus oxygen. Once the carbon part is used up by the tree, some oxygen is still left over and gets released into the air, which we breathe in. That's a great example of how something growing on land ends up being connected to what's going on in the clouds.
And I remember you said that using up some of that carbon dioxide was a good thing, because that way trees can reduce greenhouse gases. What exactly are those again? And do greenhouse gases have anything to do with the kind of greenhouse I've seen at a plant store?
And I kind of get that climate change and the planet getting hot has to do with too much buildup of extra carbon dioxide. But is that the same as greenhouse gases? There are a bunch of complicated scientific terms that I still need to wrap my head around.
Okay. So take a deep breath. You guys are both on the right track. So first of all, carbon dioxide is considered a greenhouse gas. That's because it sits up above the Earth and traps heat in the atmosphere. If it weren't for gravity, the carbon dioxide would just completely float away out into space. But gravity keeps the carbon dioxide closer to Earth, preventing it from leaving and holding it in place in the sky, building up heat as it just sort of sits there. Just think about the kind of greenhouse that you were talking about, Amelia, the one that you mentioned in a nursery or in someone's garden. What's it feel like to be in one?
It's hot as all get out.
Exactly. That's because the greenhouse traps air inside it to form a warm place for plants to grow. Some plants do really well in hotter temperatures, at least when they're first sprouting or when it's winter and when it would be too cold outside for them to live. But imagine if the entire Earth turned into a greenhouse year-round and everybody had to live in that kind of trapped-in heat.
I see. All the carbon dioxide above us in the air traps heat and makes the atmosphere hotter. That's what's making our planet dangerously warmer.
It sounds kind of like when I leave a bottle of water in the car with the lid closed. After sitting all day in the sun, the water that's inside goes from cold to boiling. I can tell because when I go to pick it up, I can see that the bottle has gotten all steamy.
You two are just a couple of smarty pants. What fabulous examples. Now just picture that same kind of thing happening to the Earth. Living here wouldn't be nearly as pleasant.
But is all carbon dioxide bad? I mean, it's been around since the beginning of time. And we talk about how plants do use it to help them grow. We do breathe it in along with oxygen.
I know the answer to that. Some carbon dioxide isn't bad at all. In fact, we're glad that it helps create some kind of barrier of heat between freezing cold outer space and planet Earth. We do want our home to be a little bit warm so we can live here. It's just that the barrier of carbon dioxide buildup is getting thicker and too much heat is getting trapped more than ever before.
Ah, I see. So the problem is that there's just too much carbon dioxide being released into our air these days, and so too much heat is being trapped up there. That's what's making our planet too hot, slowly but surely.
Exactly. And one of the reasons for that is the way we keep on burning a lot of fossil fuels, like we were talking about before. Fuel, like the gasoline that we use to power our cars, turns into carbon dioxide that ends up getting released back into the atmosphere. With millions of people driving around to get from place to place, there ends up being a whole lot of it dumped out there in the air. You know when you see smoke coming out of a car's muffler? Well, that's not just carbon dioxide being released into the air. It's all kinds of nasty gases and tiny poisonous particles. The more people drive using gas-powered vehicles, the more carbon dioxide and other nasty things are released into our air.
Or, like when all of the factories or electric companies burn something like coal, which a lot of places still use to produce energy and keep their businesses running. That sends a ton of carbon dioxide and other nasties into the sky. You can see smoke billowing out of the smokestacks for miles.
That's why Dr. Fung and her colleagues want lawmakers to try and prevent too much carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases from getting out there. In California, her work helped inspire a law that's trying to reduce that kind of buildup in our atmosphere and return it back to normal.
Because she's been able to bring so much attention to this issue, ordinary people are also starting to listen. My parents were concerned that our car was contributing to climate change, so we started taking the city bus more often.
That's just one of the ways that her work has had an impact. Dr. Fung has joined research teams and committees all over the world, but she's also tried to help us better understand how we can make a difference.
She certainly is an impressive role model. But do you know how Dr. Fung and her fellow scientists got interested in doing this kind of research? How did she even get started studying weather patterns in the first place?
We learned that Inez Fung was originally born in Hong Kong, surrounded by the South China Sea. She was always interested in the world around her, and she also loved how math and science helped her figure out how it worked.
Dr. Fung was really good at those subjects, just like me.
I am also a proud member of the Math and Science Nerd Herd. We're going to change the world someday. There's nothing cool about being uneducated if you have the opportunity to learn.
Absolutely. Her parents agreed, and they knew that it was important for her to get the best education she possibly could and continued to study what she loved. So that's how she ended up at MIT, here in the United States.
The Massachusetts Institute of Technology is one of the top colleges in the world for people who are interested in the kinds of things that Inez loved to do. She loved using math and science to figure out problems so much that she decided to keep on studying and go to graduate school. That means that she got extra education after college was over.
Her graduate degree was in meteorology, which is the scientific word for the science of weather, just like we've been talking about.
When she lived in Hong Kong, she had seen a lot of hurricanes blow through. She wanted to find out more about why hurricanes happen, so she became the second woman ever to graduate from MIT with a doctorate degree in that particular area.
She was officially an expert on the atmosphere and a real pioneer for female scientists who were interested in following in her footsteps.
So that's why we call her Dr. Fung. Another name for a doctoral degree is a PhD, or a Doctor of Philosophy. Not really a medical doctor. That's pretty much the most amount of education that you can get, and it means that you stayed in school for at least 5 or 6 years past college. Most PhDs are considered experts in their field of study.
So that makes her pretty special, along with the fact that she was one of the first women to reach that level. It's a major accomplishment.
I guess back in the 1970s, there just weren't that many women studying science anywhere. Men were still mostly in charge, But her hard work and hard-working brain helped push her to the front of her class and eventually led her to a job at NASA.
That's right. Normally we think about NASA as the part of our government that leads expeditions to places like Mars or the Moon. But they're also interested on what's going on in the airspace that's a lot closer to home.
That's why she was able to start her career at NASA studying climate change. They wanted her to help them figure out how land, the ocean, and the air all interacted together to cause changes in weather.
From there, the rest was history. And now, Dr. Fung has dedicated about 35 years of her career to studying our climate. And she keeps on going.
She must be really motivated. It would be easy to get discouraged when so many people don't want to change their habits and keep on burning so much fossil fuel instead of stopping global warming from happening.
But I think that she loves the work she does so much, she's willing to face those challenges. She once said that science is fun and exciting. My reward isn't money. You can't compensate for that magic moment when you say, aha, and you get the answer.
I think you're right, Isabel. She truly loves figuring out how we're affecting our planet. And she knows how important it is that ordinary citizens find out what's going on up in the atmosphere.
And I'm glad she's here to tell us about it. I appreciate her research abilities and the way that she shares her work with others. I think that as one of the first women to break into her field, her story is kind of inspiring.
There is a lot to be said for putting your brain power to good use. And what better cause than making sure that our Earth keeps on being a great place for everyone to live?
With just the right amount of warm weather.
You're probably getting a little warm right now from all this activity. Your lungs have been taking in a lot of oxygen and getting your body working.
As you start to slow down your pace and head back to the classroom, turn to a few walking buddies.
Do they think that global warming is a problem that we can solve?
And take one more deep breath before you step back inside. Feel the oxygen starting to flow from your lungs into your bloodstream, and then into your heart and all around your body.
It's positively invigorating.
Students, we're so glad that you could join us in getting some fresh air and learning about climate change, all at once. We hope that you find your newfound knowledge and all of that oxygen that you've been breathing in super empowering.
Thanks for coming along on this fitness and learning adventure. We hope you can join us again sometime soon.
Happy trails!